All right, everyone. Looks like we've got a good group here now, and we'll go ahead and get started. This is just to update you guys that we will be sending a recording to the attendees and clients after the webinar. If you have any questions, please submit them through the GoToWebinar panel. While we may not be able to answer all your questions during the presentation, we're going to try our best. And if your question wasn't answered, we'll follow up with everyone shortly after. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Bill Peterson, who will be your moderator for today. Take it away, Bill.
Thank you, Nicolette, and thank you everyone for joining this webinar. I'm pretty excited about this, how to power up your workforce with global operations. We're going to be introducing our panelists, and as well as our partner, Verity Global Solutions, who I'm excited because they, we'll get into it a little bit, but they've been helping a lot of MCT clients, with outsourcing, and in this day and age, 2020 with all the volume, outsourcing, if you have it set up now, you're in good shape. If you haven't, I know a lot of clients are scrambling, but it's it's a pretty interesting topic and pretty timely for everyone. So hopefully everyone's going to benefit from this. So on our panel today, we have two independent mortgage bankers, Sonny Bringle, he's the president of Victorian Finance, and Wes Hunt, president of Homestar Financial. Sonny, I believe that I was just checking back in the system. You took your first trade with us in November of 2012, and Wes, it looks like you were November of 2010. So longtime clients, and we thank you for that. And then I also want to introduce a good friend of mine, Sam Mehta. He's a president of Verity Global Solutions. I was introduced to Sam a couple years back, actually by Sonny, when Sonny had told me what he had done with outsourcing and how he was able to use Sam and his operations to help improve everything. And it was so intriguing that I just thought it was so important to bring what Sam does to the rest of our client base. And I, just we'll talk about it. And Sam, you'll tell me how many MCT clients we have, but we get numerous MCT clients that are using Verity and are really having some great successes. So, with that, I do want to introduce, Sam Mehta from, he's the president of Verity Global. So Sam, are you, you're there now, Sam, right?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I hear you now. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So Sam, I met you a couple of years back and we talked, learned about your operations. Actually, I went to Mumbai and saw how things worked with a couple clients and some other folks, and really very impressive. So, in this time that we have, maybe take 10 minutes or so, just kind of give an overview of everything, what Verity does and how it's working and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, sure. I'll kind of make this more generic. I know a lot of our presentation material is Verity, but maybe just talk a little bit about the value and the concept and how it resonates with our clients, how it is a benefit to our clients. Nicolette, could you be able to go to the next slide? Perfect. So where we fit in is when you talk to owners of mortgage companies, you talk to some of the high-level executives. One of the big KPIs for them is, what is my labor cost, and am I getting the most out of that labor cost? And what we help our clients do is essentially get the highest value work out of their more expensive resources. So, the idea is that we at Verity perform more of the assembly line type functions so that our clients' team can focus on the highest value work, whether that be, focusing on the borrower experience, doing more strategic work, making credit decisions and things like that. And then we are doing obviously the repetitive, time-consuming type work. What that also does is each company, when they look at what is the hourly rate of all their employees and their core employees, the highest value you get from those employees is if they're spending most of their day doing the highest value work. So you don't want somebody who is getting paid $40 an hour to be doing, $15 an hour work if you can. So that's where we fit in, because we basically integrate with the clients and help them with that type of work. The other area that's become pretty powerful, and this is really becoming more of a norm for companies, is the 24-hour operations. I'm based in Texas, but we have operations centers in Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore, and India. So what we're able to do is essentially have 24-hour operations, so that when the team here stateside goes home in the evening, there's still work being performed overnight, such that the loans are constantly moving forward. You're closing loans faster, selling loans faster, and that really adds a lot of value, obviously in today's environment and otherwise. The other big thing is, to be able to have a flexible labor model. We at Verity, we have a scalable model. We're designed to scale up, scale down. When you have seasonality or you have times like this COVID situation, at the end of the day, if you have to scale your team back when this big boom is over, you're not going to hurt our feelings. We're designed to do that, right? So that takes away some of the issues that clients face with having to, bring on new employees, CapEx, whether that be, of course, in a non-COVID environment, you have, investments in real estate and so on, but, not having to invest in, computers and software, all the different expenses, we take all that on. And also, most clients find that the non-strategic work, which is more the production work, that portion of their labor involves massive investments in time and effort to hire, train, retain, and so on. So, by working with us, all that becomes our problem. So I have one more slide to show you, which kind of talks about just in general, the concept of that labor stack. If Nikolai, can you show me the next slide? There you go. So really, this is just a small depiction of what I'm trying to say. Is the best way for our clients to work with us is, the goal is that the client should be performing the highest value work, and then we, or a global international team with us or some other company that you work with, should be performing the highest volume of work. So what that does, the integration of those two gives you that ideal labor stack, right? So you have strategic critical thinking happening here, and our team overseas is doing more of the checklist-based, SLA-driven deliverables. And in all those cases, when you break up the loan production, every individual task, you're producing that at the best possible price point. So then you have the most optimal loan cost in terms of labor. Does that make sense, Bill?
Yeah, no, I love that. It certainly ties in and creates that efficiency that people say, hey, why is MCT worried about outsourcing for back office? But it all comes down to the more throughput you get through your system, the more efficient client can be. That's going to lead to their bottom line profits, and that's really trying to always say how do we maximize everything. And so this makes a lot of sense in terms of doing it.
Right, so I've got a couple more slides just going to show you ideas of how folks can use us, how clients can use us. So Nicolette, if you wouldn't mind, by the way, these are some photos of the offices and team in India. You can kind of see how we're designed to scale up and down, and it's a very what a lot of folks may not know is the large multinational organizations, Wells, Citi, et cetera. They've had massive hundreds of thousands of people overseas doing this type of backup operation for well over a decade. So there's this entire labor force that is absolutely comfortable with the U.S. mortgage industry. They know all the agency guidelines and all the LOSs, the English-speaking, tech-savvy. So when you look at that portion of the labor I was talking about, that's all the production and assembly, you can do that very well by utilizing that global team concept. Anyway, go ahead, Nicolette. By the way, we're ISO 27001 certified. So what that does is we have very stringent policies around, IT security, physical security, et cetera. And I can certainly share more information on that if anybody has any questions. Nicolai, one more. So just a very quick idea on how folks can use us. So this is just a theoretical workflow and how we can integrate with our clients. So if you consider, the client side as a loan officer. By the way, Verity, we do all the work behind the scenes. We don't talk to any borrowers. We don't make any credit decisions. So, our clients have the look and feel of the company, and we're just horsepower behind the scenes. So, when a loan officer an application, we have an initial disclosures desk, so we can certainly help you with that. Generate the loan estimate, enter application to the LOS, generate the loan, and then we can go ahead and kick that back up to your processor, who in turn can generate more documents for us. Then we have a full setup function, which is a processor support function. So in which case we can review the AUS and all the income credit asset documents, et cetera. And essentially what we're creating is a short list of still needs for that loan to push to underwriting. So what happens, to give you an idea of that same concept of high value, high production between the two teams, is then the processor on our client side is spending all their time on the highest value work. So they're getting a short list from the Verity team, and then they can spend their whole day just working with the borrower, gathering documents, et cetera. They're not getting into the weeds of the loan because we're doing it for them. So, and at the same time, the owners and high-level executives at the lenders are actually happy because a lot of the folks are doing the highest value work for what they're paying them for during an 8-hour day. So that's kind of the concept there. And then we work with, we have a pipeline management function. So to enhance the setup function, we have a team of people that basically monitor the LOS and just see if those new documents have come in, such that we can push the loan to underwriting. So on the next slide, I'm going to show you a couple other functions from the origination standpoint. Another idea is we have an pre-underwriting setup team. So same concept. You have an underwriter who we support by providing them with a fully set up loan. What I mean by that is we review the loan, we create conditions, we do all the income calculations, we calculate DTI, cash to close, et cetera, and we've done the income credit asset appraisal title reviews so that the underwriter on the client side is able to then QC the file and make a credit decision. So what we're helping them do is to spend most of their day doing highest value work for what they're getting paid for. So, if you were to match up, say, one underwriter on the client side with one person on the Verity side, well, you take a $100,000 underwriter and a $40,000 Verity person. Well, for that much 40% more, you're essentially touching twice the number of loans. So that starts to become very, very impactful very quickly. And then we have a closing docs department. We can generate initial CD, help with the closing package. We also have a shipping investor submission department. And the next slide is a quick summary of other ideas for things that you can utilize companies like us for. So, I mentioned some of the origination type support functions, but we also have, post-consummation CD department. We can do home review reporting, trailing docs. We actually have a mortgage-focused accounting division. So, if somebody is using AMB, LoanVision, QuickBooks, our team is trained to support them from India. And then we have an LMA help desk. So a level 1 support for clients that can utilize us for, there's an Encompass support function from my team in India. So that's, I know I went through it pretty quickly, but just wanted to give a synopsis of how clients can utilize companies like us, how they can utilize us, and what are some of the functions we can help with.
Yeah, Sam, that's great. I think that's a nice overview, give a flavor of ideas of where you help. So, at this point, I'd love to turn to, Sonny and Wes and ask them, the question, hey, so how's Verity helping your company right now? Where's the impact that you're seeing and what's the benefit of that? The one thing I know and I understand is from talking with people, it's not a quick fix. I do know, hey, you can't just flip on a switch and have it work. And longer term, it's more of a process. But maybe Sonny, you could comment on some of the areas where you see benefit out of Verity in today's times.
Thank you, Bill. I assume everybody can hear me. I won't go through the question. Everybody asked, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. So we have Verity in place just about everywhere in our mortgage manufacturing process. We have them in the help desk, even in accounting. I see Mark Wilson's on, his team helps us as well. And we have them in every aspect. So one of the key points, Bill, you had said is that this is not a quick fix. It's something that, fortunately we had in place when this volume hit. So obviously there's cost savings immediately because A lot of the task-oriented items are being done by not your high-paid processor or high-paid underwriter. They're done, they're task-oriented items that can be quickly done, and you leave the smart, talented work to your highly paid, competent stateside personnel. But when this volume hits, I don't think any of us are really looking at cost savings when a market like this hits. We're just trying to get the loans done and close them as fast as we can to meet the expectations of our clients. So that ancillary benefit truly shown itself in the last couple of months. Because when you look at overtime for our processors and all the other staff, you're looking at time and a half, stress levels. I'm just buying enough nets right now. When people jump, at least I can catch them and put them back to work. So it's the ancillary benefits that we're still able to achieve the time frame to deliver the loans with taking a lot of stress off of our team. So we're able to do this capacity without finding those people that are so hard to find right now, because everybody's searching for all of these positions to try and take care of the volume. But I simply would not be able to do what we're doing today without having that infrastructure already in place, and then getting Verity to ramp up as well to match the production we have. So outside of the obvious cost benefits during normal times, the ability to achieve expectations during these high capacity times would be just unable to do.
And Wes, how about from your perspective? I know one thing, the recruiting was an issue, in terms of getting the right people. I remember when we talked last, you're looking to get to like a 24-hour operating environment. Could comment how Verity is helping you in those situations?
Sure. So we're newer to outsourcing than Sunny is, and I agree that it isn't an overnight fix. We actually started our quest a year ago at establishing relationships with outsourcing partner with Verity, and I'm very thankful that we did so as we came into this high volume situation that we're all in now, and we had the opportunity to mature in some of the areas that we're in. So presently we have pre-underwrites, we have 2 resources in secondary managing lot confirmations. We've added a couple of individuals to our accounting department, which was an easy add and plug in. They were already experienced and understood AMD, which is the accounting software that we use. Initial closing disclosures, initial loan estimates, and we're just now ramping up on appraisal reviews. Underwriting being, the place that we all struggle and seem to have the bottleneck. As Sam said, pairing the Verity resource with your expensive underwriter and allowing them to just concentrate on what I call the meat of the file, the credit, the income, the assets. Make sure that they're not looking at things that are below the level that we want them looking at. And we have perfected that, I feel, and we have conventional underwriters that are moving 6 files a day with the support of the offshore resource and an onshore resource as well. And we found the quality to be very good. And the checklist, or what I call checklist on steroids, that Verity's built out as excellent training wheels, if you will, for everyone throughout the process. And those reports are excellent for even our processors to use as a support. Speed has been the key, as Sunny said. There are times in the industry during rate compression, we're all concerned about saving $1 on every file. Today, we're just concerned with getting another file done. It's a great place to be, but it also provides challenges and the resources. But I would still say the greatest benefit in either time, at least for my company, is the speed, the 24-hour machine that you mentioned, which is the goal that I have in adding Verity as a partner.
So, Wes, you mentioned like checklists and stuff like that. So So does Verity come in and say, hey, here's the process, here's the documented processes, or are they seeing what you're doing and you're working together? How does that work, getting the processes and procedures together?
Great question, Bill, and thank you for bringing that up because it's an extremely valid point. And Verity has been great to work with us in both directions. We've provided our process. We have a lot of customization in Encompass, but we've also worked with Verity to even strip down our own processes, as well as they're providing us with their current statements of work. So very much a partnership. And us sometimes going, well, we like what you're doing better than what we've been doing, or we need to stick to what we've put in place because of the way our system flows and what our loan officers are expecting. But the VA work that they've been able to provide has been a great value add for the whole partnership, and even helping document those processes. And what I would say to anyone on the call who has not really entered into this world yet, and you're thinking, how am I going to get started? Because I'll be honest, we failed out 3 or so years ago with a different company. I tried it when we were in a time we were just inundated with business and we were trying to plug in, and I didn't have the buy-in from my managerial staff. When I started this a year ago, we were at 3.7% unemployment in the country, and the challenge then was filling the seats with some of the lower level clerical roles that we needed to fill, not from an industry challenge, but just from the fact that we had such low unemployment in the country, and wages that were rising. So that was the initial start. So I would give two pieces of advice. One, start documenting all of your processes now, but also engage with Verity for them to help you with that. But the more that you get documented, the faster you can ramp up, so they will understand what you're doing. And secondly, don't wait until your coffers are overfilling to try to start, and be committed to this as a long-term goal for your company, and understand that you're going to have to work through some time. You can ramp some things up very quickly. I don't want to make anyone think that you can't, but the more time you give yourself to ramp up and the bigger commitment that you have and getting your management staff to buy in, the better it's all going to work.
So you bring up an interesting question. So how do you get started? I mean, what area do you start with first, and how do you engage that way? Sonny, I think when you introduced me to Barry at first, I think you focused on just one silo in the process. Maybe it was post-closing. Maybe you can comment on that.
Yeah, when I started, of course, it was new, and you're concerned about what impacts it will have. So I picked the post-closing department because it wasn't as time sensitive as some of the other operations of closing a file on time. So if we had some hiccups, then it took a few more extra days to buy a loan off our warehouse line, it wasn't that big of an impact. So that's why we decided to start there. And it was quickly realized that I could half the number of post closers within a month. I saw the direct impacts of that. And then we gradually stepped through to quality control, which was also another less impactful as far as time frame to closing the file, up until I had enough confidence that there wouldn't be an impact on our ability to deliver loans on time. And that's when we started putting into direct manufacturing chain of timelines.
So Sam, what do you see for, like, how do you, is this typical to start one silo at a time? Do people want to hit everything at once? What do you typically see from your clients?
From when we first started, Sonny was one of the earlier adopters working with us. So yeah, it was there was a little bit of a proving ground at that time. Today, we're very established in each individual department, whether it's initial disclosure, setup, underwriting. They're almost like companies within a company, because they're pretty large teams. So, take an example of Wes. Wes actually got in pretty aggressively in several different departments, and we were going to ramp all that up at the same time. So it just depends. It's across the board. It just depends on the client's needs, and to some extent, sometimes it's about risk tolerance. Sometimes it's about change management with their own management team. All those things come into play.
And so, Sonny, Wes mentioned about documenting process and procedures. So I know I've seen your checklists. They're extensive. They're exhaustive. And so what do you find works with most clients, or is everybody different? Do people adopt what you have, or are you conforming to what they have, or is it just a blend?
Is that for me?
Oh, with that?
Well, that was for for Sam. Like, what are you seeing among the client base in terms of, you have all these great processes and procedures documented. Wes is saying you better have that ready before the client should have that ready before they engage, they understand their business. I was trying to see, do they leverage what you have, or you find they mostly leverage what you have, or you're kind of conforming around the client?
Yeah, so it's again, it's a mixed bag. We have some standard work processes that we have built that are per the agency guidelines and pretty extensive. So in the first pass, we'll work with our clients to essentially optimize that checklist to come up with the right turn time and the number of people they need for us to support them. We do have some clients that have great documentation, some folks that have almost nothing. But yeah, I mean, we also have people on our team that can help generate those documents to make sure we have a scope document we can agree on. Give you an example. Just last week, we helped a client come up with a naming convention. So it just depends. It's all across the board, but we have the expertise to help if that's the roadblock to getting started. We certainly can help with that as well to generate documents.
Right.
Procedures. Yeah.
And then, Sonny, I'd like you to tell your story about like what you found, how once you engaged Verity, that you thought what you were doing was fine, but now how using them helped improve your process. Like, found weaknesses in what you were doing, and you didn't even know that. Remember that story you told me a while back, where they were finding your errors or something like that?
Yeah, well, we all hate buybacks, correct? But unfortunately, mistakes do happen. And the perfect example I have is we had a foreclosure that was identified by Verity on 3 different occasions in the file. It was up to my team to act on it, to get the proper dates of disposition, discharge, and all the dates we all know very well. And my team didn't follow up on the persistent tasks that Verity kept on identifying on the file. The file did close, and it did turn out to be an issue for me, in which I did have a buyback because of the foreclosure just missed the dates. It was only by a few days, but it doesn't matter. But Verity identified it 3 different times there in the file, and it was my team in the US that didn't act. And I found that in more than a number of situations, and that when it comes down to usually an issue, very seldom, if ever, I find a mistake on Verity's side. It's usually a mistake on our US team side. That's something that's persisted through the file. Because oftentimes these checklists, I mean, there's so many items on this checklist that you find that they just check it off, but they don't actually do the work to verify that that checklist item was satisfied. And so, on Verity's side, they actually go through and make sure all those checks actually mean that that was cleared. And that's where I found that sometimes these check boxes on the US side were just checked off and the work wasn't actually done.
So yeah, I thought that's a pretty cool story, that it shows like it's working both ways, that they're able to help you, you're able to help them, and you're kind of constantly refining the process. So that kind of leads me to like training and staffing and employees, that type of thing. About so Sam, how do you go about with the training and when you bring on a new client? Certainly you have silos of people that have done those jobs before, but how does that go about, in terms of like when you're with the training?
Yeah, so we I think what I mentioned earlier is there is a pretty large labor pool in India, hundreds of thousands of people that are extremely well versed in the US mortgage industry. So we have very often we can hire completely experienced people to join our company and get productive, very quickly. We have subject matter experts. We have, program leads, assistant managers, senior managers. All these folks are, over a decade or 15 years from the mortgage industry. So there's all variety of experiences. So we don't have to be trained on how to do the work. So we know what has to be, we understand processing, we understand underwriting. Of course, we're doing support functions, initial disclosures, closing, et cetera. We know all those functions. Once we engage with our clients, we spend the first couple of weeks just basically understanding, getting onboarded onto their systems, understand if it's a custom LOS or a different LOS or something, maybe go through that, maybe do some shadowing to understand how they do it, how much time they take, et cetera. And after the first couple of weeks, we basically fully define the scope and go to production from there. So that's about the typical process. Any training that happens internally usually is handled on our side when it comes to the actual role, but the specifics of the client, that happens in those first couple of weeks.
And then, Wes mentioned this earlier about, having the whole team has to be on board. I mean, and I understand from other clients, it all sounds great right now. All sounds, pie in the sky, but when rubber meets the road, obviously there's issues that come up. And, my understanding, maybe you can comment on this, is that actually Sean Clark from Advisors was telling me that, it's imperative to have like weekly meetings just so everybody's on board, so you're constantly, because you're always running into issues and then you have to resolve them. So nothing's perfect, but the success, he was telling me, sort of comes when their team is heavily involved with your team and you're constantly having the meetings to keep moving the ball forward. Is that, is that what is that the right thing, that you have to have that, you need that buy-in at the upper management level, and then mid-management needs to buy in as well, so everybody's kind of working in the right direction?
Bill, is that for me?
Yeah, that was for you, Sam.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, what you might call executive sponsorship is pretty key. It's a critical success factor in working together. If a client views us as an extension of their team, pretty much, their team members versus viewing us as just as a third-party provider, that actually helps tremendously in making the engagement more successful, because the client is actually more invested in making the relationship work versus just expecting, something thrown over the fence, So, at Verity, we actually train our employees to think about, they're not working for Verity. They actually, they're actually working for Victorian Finance or working for Homestar Advisors, like you mentioned. So they have that shared purpose and that shared value that they're working for the customer that's actually based in the United States, right? A lender in the United States. So vice versa, if clients take the same approach, then it really makes that whole relationship gel better. And there's a lot more cooperation, and it's a very, very friendly, understanding type integration that has always worked every single time.
Right. And so when it doesn't work, I mean, that's typically when, one person says, hey, let's do it, flip the switch, and then hands it off to someone else and doesn't get involved. I mean, I think it's important for everyone to understand, why there's success and why there's failure.
Right.
And it sounds like, obviously the success is when there's buy-in up and down the line and everyone's involved. Sean this morning was telling me, because I look at the Verity employees, I consider them my employees. They just happen to be located in Mumbai, which is really a kind of interesting statement, that, he doesn't look at you as as an air outsourced vendor. I mean, it's almost, they're his employees, like a partnership. So I think
yeah. So one of the things that we establish up front is, being independent mortgage banks. I mean, I am personally on text message with pretty much every owner of the various clients that we have. So we text back and forth on a pretty regular basis. And Wes and Sonny will tell you, even Steve Advisors will tell you that we text back and forth. If he ever has any issue or something he wants to talk about, we're constantly in contact. So some of those things do play a pretty big part.
So that you brought up independent mortgage bankers, but you also do this for banks, right?
Yes, we do. We have several banks that we work with. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right. Just one, for those that are banks out there, want to know you do that. How about could we just touch on the security? I remember we gave a presentation before about this, and there were issues about security and privacy, and like they don't even let their own underwriters take their work home, let alone with outsource. What have you heard about that, and then how do you work within those confines?
So, we're certified to ISO 27001, which is an internationally recognized IT and physical security certification that's specifically for organizations like ours that cater to financial institutions and mortgage lenders. So, we have just very stringent policies, procedures around how we can work with our clients and how we can access data. One of the big aspects of that is we really don't download anything, right? So we work directly in the client system, and in a non-COVID environment, we have an extremely locked down, office area where, our employees cannot bring cell phones in a workplace. They cannot, they have no personal email access. They can't even print anything, no paper, no pen, no personal jump drives, no CD drives, nothing like that. So, we're designed to be way, way more locked down than, pretty much any of our clients. In a COVID environment, we have to, because the whole world has gone remote, we have to rely on some other things. Obviously, the IT security is extremely strict because all our employees are working off of company-provided encrypted laptops that, only work through our secure server before they access any of the client's information. And we also have some, about 25% of our company on an AWS, and we're trying that out as a pilot to see if it's going to help us increase some speeds. Really, it's that we have to constantly comply with these policies, and we're always in touch with ISO to see if we're doing things the right way. And in general, what we find is cybercrime in India is way lower than a lot of the parts of the world, including here at home. So, we go through very strict background checks. And actually, one of the things in India that's different than here is we can actually go back and see if an employee had some disciplinary action, even with previous employers. So, it tells you a lot, it writes a story, right? So it's a pretty secure environment that way.
Great. So, we talked about a lot of the operational things. I thought another thing that was just kind of interesting is the support you offer for Encompass. Like I'd say over 70% of the MCT clients use Encompass. I was wondering, Sonny, I think you use some of that support. Can you talk about that level 1 support that Verity offers and how that helps you out?
Sure. I did one comment on the work from home situation, because I think we all have that same issue in the US as well right now with so many people working from home. How do we protect our secure information when so much of the staff is working from home now? I think that's another challenge for us. But on the Encompass support side, we gradually got Verity involved into the Encompass help desk, because there's so many little bitty items that come across that are very easy for to solve that our Encompass team gets bogged down with. And so Verity started getting into that, and to now they control 100% of our help desk, and it's supreme coverage, all the wide ranging of hours and times that our loan officers and the staff get the support they need from Encompass help desk with Verity, and it's been working perfectly fine. Our Encompass programmers are now focused on strategic long-term items to help improve the efficiency and operation of Encompass and other manufacturing parts of the loan process. So they don't deal with the day-to-day help desk stuff anymore. They actually deal on stuff that helps reduce overall costs.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. That because I just know we have so many Encompass clients, and they also having an Encompass administrator and stuff gets to be expensive, and so helping with that stuff I think solves a lot of issues.
But it's a similar model to what I mentioned to you on the underwriting side. Our clients have extremely experienced and expensive Encompass admins, so we can do the day-to-day and let them focus on the strategic, just like Sonny mentioned. And there's a lot of our clients find a lot of value in that. And we take over the entire ticketing system, and we can do basic programming, create forms, help with business rules, etc. So it's pretty valuable for a lot of clients.
So I just want to go back to, again, the question at the very beginning, the benefits of outsourcing. Maybe Wes or Sonny, in terms of actual metrics, are you able to put any numbers on things of like, you were seeing it? I know, Wes, your goal is to get to a 24-hour environment. But are there any numbers you see now that you're able to like say where the efficient, what you're seeing and where it's picking up? Is it just everywhere, or any comment on that?
Well, I don't have exact metrics, as we've been really focused on just getting the loans out the door. But I will say, when I've looked at it, just in the initial loan estimates that are being produced, when I compare to what we're paying onshore for an individual to do that same task, there's definitely a savings there. And then in our underwriting piece, which has been all focused on conventional versus govies, we've been able to, sorry, I'm getting feedback, but we've been able to reduce those costs at least $50 or $60 per conventional file at the last, quick calculation that I did. But I would say that, we're still somewhat, in my opinion, 10 or 11 months down the road in the infancy, and I can see gaining much more efficiency and cost savings over time as you just peel it apart task by task.
Right. You also, when we talked before, you mentioned how like you view your client as your LO, and how having Verity has helped keep the LOs happy, because you're able to process better, faster, more efficient, more effectively.
Absolutely. Can it ever be fast enough is the question I ask myself. And my goal is, as you've stated, the 24-hour machine, so that we're not dealing with extended turn times, and we're moving it out so fast that they're never have an opportunity to say, why can't this be faster? We have hybrids in our operations. I have some branches that have more at the branch level, and others that we're doing more for at what I would say would be the corporate level. But there are times, the branch maxes out and they're looking for a place. Can we provide additional resources? So that's just a value add for the branches as well when we can do that. If you have someone working when you're sleeping, and that you can trigger your CD. I'm not saying we're to this point yet. It's the vision. Someone triggers their CD to go out at 5 p.m. Eastern, and they wake up the next morning and it's been prepared and out the door. It really doesn't get any better than that, and you're never going to be able to accomplish that with onshore resources only, because people need to and want to eventually go home to their families.
I hear you. So Sonny, how about on your end, metric-wise? Like length of time getting things through the system. I mean, what have you seen? Do you have any metrics on like how much or how fast you've gotten to the point where, because of Verity, it's helping your throughput?
The simplest example I can give you is post-closing. So the time frame from the time we deliver a file to an investor and they purchase it, and the suspense items they put on it to purchase it, have been dramatically reduced for us. So the quality of the product we're delivering to the investors is increased substantially, which is all the other ancillary benefits of shorter time on the warehouse line, higher utilization of the warehouse line, lower hedging cost, and just the workload of post-closing. So that all comes from the production of the file all the way through. So I could definitely say that my cost per processing per file is dropped substantially. But has it dropped commensurately to the work? Because I've added some work to the file to help ensure that quality. So it's given me the ability to develop a higher quality file faster. And the end result of that ultimate benefit is how quickly I sell it and how many post-closing conditions or 6 months, a year from now in quality control conditions I have as a result of that. The reductions of task for my processors and underwriters is down 50–60% from what they do every day. So they're focused on the problem. So I don't know how much dollar I can put on speed of a file. So we go through every file. The way I look at it, every file has 1,000 problems, whether it goes to any independent mortgage banker or bank, wherever. It's a process by which identifying those problems as soon as possible. So we're always the bearer of bad news to an extent by having conditions. It's just how fast we identify those and solve those. So problem identifiers are everywhere. Problem solvers is what we created, and they're infinitely faster than we had before. So that increases our delivery of news, solving the problems faster to help get a file through the system a lot faster. And I'm not sure I can give a cost reduction number to that, but it certainly achieves in the time frames we're able to do it, and especially in this market right now. Right. I mean, again, the speed through the system. I mean, you hear companies doing 90 days on refis. I mean, we're still less than 60 days, and it's and it's going at a normal pace.
Right. That's great. And so, we're kind of getting to the end here, and it, I appreciate you guys talking about benefits, what you've seen, your own experiences. Sam, how many MCT clients roughly I think you have that you're that are using Verity? I'm not sure the exact number, but I know we've had some really good successes from everybody I've talked to so far.
At last count, I think it was 34.
Yeah. So again, way back when I heard what Sam was doing for Sunny, it had nothing to do with secondary marketing, but it really has all to do with the success of a client. And I really felt strongly that this is really an important aspect to all our clients, that where can I do better? Where can I do better? Well, if you're maxing out on the hedge side and stuff like that, look at your operations, and the answer came with outsourcing. With Sam's company has done a great job with our client base. So I want to thank our panelists, and then we do have time for questions that folks can type in questions and we can answer them if you want via the GoToMeeting that question thing. If there's anybody that has any questions, just type them in there. Right.
Hi, Bill. It's Nicolette. I just wanted to let you know that at this time we don't have any questions, but I did get a private message for one participant for Verity to follow up with them after. So that's good.
Okay, great.
Any other questions from anyone? You can type into the questions panel on GoToWebinar panel here.
And we'll just give it a couple seconds there. We have questions. But again, Sonny, I want to thank you again first for introducing me to Sam and for always participating and for being a longtime client. Wes, the same thing. And you've been there as long as you've been with MCT as long as I have, so we appreciate that as well. Up on the screen, there's some info if you want to get a hold of any of us for questions about this. While we're waiting and we have a couple more minutes, Sam, have you found like it's helpful to have, if you start a new client, particularly a new MCT client, that they speak to an existing one that has gone through the process as sort of a help, like a buddy system or anything to help with that? Have you done that type of stuff?
Oh, absolutely. They do it all the time to talk to other MCT clients. Absolutely. They're such a tight community that they very often they know some of the companies we're working with, so they can just call them directly and chat with them.
All right, sounds good. Well,
yeah.
Look, I think then we're not seeing any questions. If questions come up, we're almost at the top of the hour. I want to thank everybody who has been listening and participating. Thank you again, Wes and Sonny and Cam. Again, I think this is valuable. Hopefully you find it valuable, and we'll keep bringing stuff to you, our client base that help meet your needs. Nicolette, thank you for hosting the whole show here.
Thank
you
you to
so
all
much.
the presenters.
Thank you, everybody.
so much. And thanks to everyone who attended. After this webinar is concluded, we will be sending out the recording and slide deck along with a more in-depth informational slide deck from Verity. So check your emails, and thank you so much for attending. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you very much.
Sam, Wes.
Thank you.